Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to our first meeting of the new season of the CIPC. A few opening remarks just to give us context here. First of all, maybe later on
Do
we
you want
can...
me to take the minutes?
If you could...
Oh. I'm going to try it for one meeting and see if I'm...
All right, that's fair.
Okay.
We were going to ask you that. But we appreciate that. We really do.
Well, I can always listen to it on the,
You can, yep.
if I can't write it. I
Right.
can't read my writing.
Okay. We appreciate that again. And I wanted to, I think this is appropriately under the remarks of the chair, the present chair. And that is, we're meeting, today is obviously Thursday, and we used to meet on Wednesday. We're meeting on Thursday because there were some conflicts, and we picked a time of 3:30. I will tell you, first of all, even though the invitation said 2 hours, we're not planning to do 2 hours. We'd like to get it over, 60 to 90 minutes, which we normally would do, and I think we can accommodate that. But I do want to talk about whether Thursday's a date that you prefer better than Wednesday. I'm not recommending any other day. And if so, the time. We had been doing it for a long time on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. And that allowed people to get home earlier. And then we went to 4 p.m., I think, last year because some people couldn't make it. They have to work and get here. So we don't have to resolve this today other than to pick a meeting date for the next meeting. But are there any sentiments on this as to what you prefer? Do you have a preference? Does it make any difference? I know if you here in Town Hall, it's pretty simple to get here.
Yes. I have no preference.
Okay.
3 o'clock would be my preference.
3 o'clock?
Earlier the better, yeah.
Yeah. And is Thursday for the moment the date you prefer?
Thursday works for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
We can always change it.
Yeah, no, doesn't
Thursday's
matter.
fine.
All right, so for the time being, we'll go with Thursday. We used to meet every 2 weeks, so I will suggest that 2 Thursdays from now, I haven't looked at the calendar, it's probably over there, but I can't see it that well.
It's probably,
That's
The 16th.
the 16th.
yep,
So the next meeting on November the 16th at 3 p.m., okay?
and that would be the 30th.
Let me make a note of that. Yeah, and we can change all of this. We're not bound by any of that. Okay, thank you for that. Now, the second thing I wanted to do, and it's all within the call to order and remarks of the chair. Where we left off is always good. It seemed that in the past, long before now, and several years back, we would just hop into the next batch of material, but I think we should have some context. So where we left off was actually the last minutes of February 15th, which we will approve later, has a list of what we approved and so on and so forth. And then Jim Arnett wrote a memo to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee is always looking for this, and it's good to have topics, or rather, items that were approved and part of the free cash at town meeting. And then there was a second group of items, 4 to be exact, from ARPA funds. And there were 3 other items, like I can go over that. And then attached to that was also the ones that didn't make the cut. Those are important too, because the ones that don't make the cut, you would like to think that those would be looked at again early in the next cycle, so that department heads who have put things in good faith to have done in terms of capital needs, they need to be assured that they won't be ignored, even though they'll have a chance, as they do every year, to resubmit the list. But it's good, we need continuity here, and remind us where we left off. So, quickly, where we left off last year is we did approve 8 items that were part of the article at the town meeting, representing by free cash of $761,000. There was software, the town hall parking lot patching, fire department heating system. I think that could be the fire station number 2.
Correct.
Yeah. And the town hall pickup truck, the Westport Elementary School parking lot, the highway mini excavator, the Westport Elementary School clock pager, and one police cruiser. We were able to get 2 other cruisers from ARPA money, I do believe, and that's why last year was only 1 cruiser, which is unusual for this committee because we're normally looking at 2 or 3. And then there was a group of items under ARPA separately. I don't even know what this is, but I knew at the time, Internet DMARC. It was something to do with the internet.
Yeah, they had a server at the,
Survey.
we leased a place over on Route 6 and they moved it to the fire station.
Yeah. Then there was a public safety radio hardware, battery backups of some sort, I don't recall what that was. School two-way radios. And those amounts total $382,000. Then there were 3 other items, $950,000 for the town hall HVAC and is that EXT?
Electrical.
EXT? Okay. Anyway. And that money came from, happily, the Green Communities Grant and CPC funds, so that was great. The cemetery bathroom from perpetual care funds, and the cemetery tractor also from perpetual care funds. Now, later in the process, we'll talk about sources of funding, as we normally do. And, but that's for later on in the process. So those are my background remarks. Does anybody have any comments on any of this? I just wanted to pick up where we left off and talk a little bit about it, just for context.
My only question is, Jim, do you have a list of the items that didn't make the cut from last year that we're going to review or consider, if we're going to consider those again for this year?
Yes, I can
You
get that.
had
for the
that old
committee.
spreadsheet, I remember.
We do, I do.
Yeah, I don't know if some of it might be on this, but I don't know if that's a complete list. It can be unfunded.
Yeah, so that was the updated list from last year. There's been a number of other items that have been added since.
Yeah. So if you have that, I don't know, did members of this committee get this now?
They probably did not.
Yeah, why don't you distribute that? That might have your answer right here.
Okay,
And on your question, it had something like library HVAC, fire station exterior siding, recreational
okay, yep, that sounds.
playgrounds, pickup.
Yep.
Yeah. COA floor replacement, there you go. A number of items, okay. All right, so if you have that, you'll be really and truly.
We
up to date.
didn't, Jim's going to forward it to us.
Okay, there's a few members who are not here today, but we do have a quorum, so we can conduct our business. So without further ado, the first item on the agenda is the presentation of the fiscal year. This would be 25, wouldn't it, Capital?
25, yes.
Yeah, the agenda has an error in it. We're talking, believe it or not, the fiscal year 2025, can you believe it? We did 24.
Right.
This is 24.
It's hard to say that since we're still in 23.
Right. It'll be easier once we get to January 1st.
Right.
But we are dealing with 2025 fiscal year capital projects. So, there are 3 on the agenda tonight. I don't know if the other 2 will make it. Oh, I'm sorry, the other one will make it, would be information technology. We have the library and the fire department. The library would be the shorter conversations, so George, I'll invite you up. And we'll go through your request and answer questions about it. And just for the record, we know who you are, but introduce yourself, so a little record keeper can get
I'm
you.
known about town. Thank you very much.
Spelling correctly, which you will, of course.
Good afternoon. My name is George Ripley. I am the director of the Westport Free Public Library.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, and what I see here is one request for today's consideration, George?
Yep, so basically, it's one request involving several moving parts, literally and figuratively. The library's HVAC system as a whole is installed in several different time periods. We have one large ground unit which was put in 2006. Then there's 3 HVAC units up on the roof that were put in when we had the big renovation and addition back in 2009 and 10. As well as there's also one AC humidity control unit in our local history and archive room, which has higher preservation requirements than most of the rest of the building, just because of the delicate nature of some of the manuscripts and artifacts we have in there. Basically, when they were installed and replaced originally, they have 15 to 20 year lifespans for most of those units, depending. And they are beginning to approach end of life. We're starting to see increased repair costs year over year, as well as changes in our own climate. We're starting to notice where in this last year, the units were actually struggling to take all of the humidity out of the air in the general library, not in the archive. That was completely fine. But in some other parts of the library, it was certainly an issue, and we did receive complaints from the public about the soupiness of the air, especially our Mahjong ladies who were not too happy with that. So it is going to be an increasing challenge going forward, which we'll have to keep an eye on. We try to mitigate it as much as we can. But the bad thing about the concrete walls that we have, they're great for insulation, for maintaining temperature, keeping the hot air out and the cold air in. But unfortunately, when it gets humid, it stays that way until we can really work on it. There's not a lot of airflow in the building, just the way that it's designed. So as the HVAC units continue to age and strain the system, we anticipate increased repairs going forward, even more than they are at the moment.
So time flies, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, so the request is $68,000 in total, comprised of those 3 items, or 3 categories, 29, 31, and 7. 29 being for the HVAC ground unit, 31,000 for 3 HVAC rooftop units, and 7,600 for the AC humidity control unit. And the explanation is here as you've described it. So questions, comments, thoughts from our committee?
Have you talked to Kathy Stanley yet, our energy consultant?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
It was mentioned, but I believe last time they were already at capacities. They didn't have time to come over, so I'm not sure where they are right now.
Okay. Yeah, we should check with her. Even rebates on some of this. We just put 2 units in the annex, and we get $10,000 or $12,000 rebates on 2 of the units. So.
That'd be nice.
Okay, well, you can follow up on that, Jim, with
Yep.
George. I don't really have any questions. We talked about this last year to some extent, and it's pretty obvious. I know what these things are. Not that I'd ever be able to fix one if it were broken, but and it looks like time has come. Further comments, questions, thoughts? We're not approving anything, and
No, I understand.
this is really lining everything up, and then later on we have at all of it and set priorities, and then we talk about the funding. So today we're just gaining knowledge about your needs and understanding the importance of it. So there are no further questions for today? Comments? Well, if that's it then. You've done your job, and we
Very
thank
good.
you, and we'll put this on the list
Very good.
and
Thank
give
you.
it due consideration.
Appreciate it.
And we'll get back to you with anything else we need, and we can follow up with you with Kathy Stanley.
Very good.
Thank you. Good to see you, George.
You too.
Okay, Dan?
Under a lot of pressure, I'll be as brief as I can. Which I will try to be this year.
That's going to be a tough act to follow.
So Dan Baldwin, currently Deputy Fire Chief, soon to be Fire Chief in January. Good afternoon.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yes, congratulations again. How's the transition going?
It's going good.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
it's going well. Just
A lot.
A lot of weight. All of a sudden, that night I walked out here, I was like, oh, jeez. Really kind of feel it.
You're well up to the task, we're not worried.
But, yeah, so normally I do present you all with a packet, but it looks like everybody has a copy of that, which I told you would. Some of this is a repeat, some of it's new. I will try and be as brief and to the point as I can. There are a few bullet points so that I really feel as though I need to just go over with the committee, and some explanations and some eye-opening things that I'm sure opened your eyes when you looked at my estimated cost of some of the projects, as well as myself. I do want to start off just by updating and thanking the committee and the taxpayers for previous funding over the last couple of years. Our most recent capital award was for the heating system at Station 2. We asked for $30,000, that was approved. I was told by a local vendor, expect to be 25 to 30. 3 bids came in at 57, 47, and 45. By some miracle, I literally crossed paths with Diamond, and the HVAC instructor had nothing lined up, and they took the project. So I think with no guarantee, it certainly sounds like once again, we will be able to return money to the town. I don't see us coming close to 30, probably around 20, give or take a couple of thousand, but we're basically paying for materials. There's no labor cost. Working with the school department, I want to give them credit. They allowed us to borrow a scissor lift that they had. We would have had to rent that for $275 a day, and that scissor lift was in our station for about 3 weeks. So they saved us a ton, and they were more than cooperative, and so just want to publicly thank them for their help. I have been in contact with Kathy Stanley. She is looking at some rebate money that's to be determined based on the cut list and everything like that. But the project is moving forward. We're just about to install the main boiler itself, which was actively leaking. So all in all, it's on the move, and the kids have been excellent, and we're very impressed. We'll continue to find outside sources of funding. There is a small grant coming up for $19,000 that we will be applying for through DFS. Not putting towards capital, it's towards gear and things that would offset capital requests. That just got announced this morning. That has to be due by the end of the month, and working on that. We've had success with that over the last couple of years. One of the biggest ticket items, which I'll get to, is the fire engine replacement. And our last engine was bought for $400, don't quote me, maybe $85,000, maybe 7 years ago. I'm getting prices now upwards of $950. Anywhere from $800 on the lower end, $950, which is obviously eye-opening. I am going to be, for the first time, putting in for an AFG grant for a fire engine. I haven't done that yet. We have been successful the last 2 years receiving AFG funding. Last year was 25, give or take, around 25,000 for equipment. Again, I'll just recap. They get about 8,200 applications a year, which amount to about $2 billion in requests, and they only have about 500,000 in handouts. So it's extremely competitive. Only about 150 vehicles are awarded every year throughout the country. I'm thinking about having some assistance from a grant writer. It's about $1,500. I've never worked with a grant writer. I got to look at that a little bit more, but it might be worth our time to spend that money. I know Fairhaven recently started working with a grant writer for their entire town. They pay a lot more money than that, but it may be to our benefit to look into that. The problem with that is that opens up in January. It's usually announced over the summer. If we're denied, then next fall I'm sitting here again, and we're a whole nother year down the road. The average build time for a fire engine is 2 to 3 years. Typically there's a 44 to 5% annual increase in the cost of apparatus. Last year alone saw a 23% increase in a fire engine cost. I don't know if that's going to continue, but so one of the things that my long-term plans, and that it's probably not the right place to talk about it tonight, but I'll just reach the subject, is we really, as a town, need to come up with a fire apparatus replacement plan. I can't walk in here and drop on you guys once a year that I need $1 million to replace a fire truck. It's not fair to the taxpayer, it's not fair to the town, it's not fair to the fire department. I've talked to a lot of the fire chiefs. They do have a replacement plan in place. We're a little behind the 8 ball because we're approaching replacement times on several of our fire trucks. The age of them, we have 2005 tanker pumpers, 19 years. I'm just going to run down the list. 19 years, 27, 11 years, 7 years, 30 years, 18 years, 24 years. 20 to 25, 20 is the NFPA guideline. There's no absolute standard that says you will remove the vehicle from service based on its lifespan. 20 to 25 is the industry guideline. 30 years is pretty much time to wrap it up. That you start to have problems with your annual pump tests, it becomes a safety liability issue. Newer vehicles have rollover protection, safety features, lighting. There's numerous aspects why we should be replacing the vehicles. So I think hopefully maybe working with the town administrator outside of this meeting, we can come up with some sort of plan. Whether it's the money that the fire department returns through capital funding or returns at the end of the year, goes maybe allocated to some sort of fund earmarked strictly for the purchase of a piece of fire apparatus. But unless I'm unaware of it, I don't see a plan now to do that. And I think it's something a lot of the departments do. I was on the phone this morning with another chief, just trying to get some information so I can bring something forward to you guys to avoid these type of requests. But what I will say is part of the plan to replace our fleet, and as I state every year, all of our priorities are high priority. I think next year I'm going to split it, operations and safety and building maintenance. We're charged with both. It's very difficult for me to say, I'm going to sit here tonight and tell you that a high priority is windows and trim at Station 2, but how can I put that over a fire engine which protects life and property? So I think next year my presentation, as I think about things moving forward, will be a little bit different. I do think we have technically have one reserve truck right now, Engine 5, that's the 30-year-old piece of fire apparatus. That came from Foxborough, then to Fall River, and then to Westport Fire. It's fought a lot of fires and it's been in a lot of places. It's time to replace that truck. Engine 2 was also serving as a reserve truck, but with the increase in brush fires, drought conditions, the square miles of our town being 64 square miles, 14 square miles was water, but the rest of it is land. We felt the need to repurpose Engine 2, which is really a structural fire truck, as a brush truck, as I explained last year. Remove supply hose, put forestry hose on top. It can't drive across farm fields. It's not four-wheel drive. We risk damaging the vehicle, but when the north end brush truck is out and fire comes in, which happens, we had nothing down the south end to take, so we repurposed it. I don't think we need two reserve fire engines of that size. There's more maintenance, more fuel use. Pump tests are harder to come by. They're both approaching their end of life. Engine 2, I think, is 24 years old. So what I would like to propose, again, is to purchase a brush truck. I just touched base with the vendor this morning. The price is still estimating at $275. That would replace Engine 2, which to replace that as a structural engine would be $950. So there is a cost savings. The next step would be to replace Engine 5, which unfortunately is going to run as, let's call it $950 in the high end, just so we're talking, the absolute worst scenario. But instead of having to replace two trucks at that price, it allows us to have what we need in both ends of town, which is a brush truck. We still have our two frontline trucks. We have one reserve truck, and then eventually, when we replace that, Engine 2 would become the new reserve. When Engine 2 is replaced, hopefully in the near future, Engine 3 and Engine 4, which are 11 and 7 years old, one of those would move into reserve. That would really put us in a good position, and that, I think, would be the time where we can start to establish a 10-year plan, a 10-year account. We can generate funds over a period of time. Obviously still trying for the grants and things like that, but I'll continue to gather more information to share with the committee and outside of the committee where we can come up with a plan, but we can't kick the can down the road, and we have to really have a plan in place. So a brush truck would be beneficial, as you see in my narrative, which I won't get into, is very extensive. I will just say most recently this past spring we had two significant sized brush fires simultaneously, one on Main Road near Holly Lane and one right behind the fire station on Briggs Road. Required Bristol County tree cutting team. We're seeing brush fires burning high and above into the trees that we never saw before because of the drought conditions and gypsum moth infestation. Highway department was very helpful in there. They came down with their bucket truck and started cutting trees down for us. Multiple mutual aid communities, but I actually responded in Engine 2 because the station was out, so I took the structural truck, which is set up as a brush truck, and I was limited. I couldn't access the field, so it was a scenario. I was stuck in the laneway, deployed the hose and did what we had to do, but I had to wait for another brush truck to come to access these areas. So it's important for a community like ours, a lot of rural wooded areas. Four-wheel drive is a necessity. So I think in order to move forward with our engine replacement plan, I think which is why I placed it at number one priority, would be the purchase of a new brush truck. Priority number two, which I just touched on, is obviously replacing engine 5, which is a 1994 pumper. As I said, it's served 3 towns, it has over 5,300 miles. I mean, 5,300 hours and 60,000 miles. Doesn't sound like a lot of miles, but in our line of work, hours are really what we take a look at versus mileage on how long they've been sitting there. Engine 5 does leak water significantly. To put a whole bunch of money into that pump to replace that, I think is silly at this point. We kind of just deal with the leak. I don't even know if it would pass a pump test at this time. We did not pump test as of yet. We're still in the process of doing pump testing. As I said, the typical lifespan is 20 to 25 years. Just want to reduce the town's liability and making sure that we have backup apparatus that is safe and reliable. And to just real quick, engine 4, newer engine, was struck by another vehicle involved in a motor vehicle crash at Route 6 in Gifford. I'm not sure you probably saw that or are aware. That truck was out of service for 5 months, being replaced. Engine 5 became the frontline truck. So here we are running with a 30-year-old truck, frontline for 4 or 5 months. The accident was not our fault, but it's a real situation where you have a truck of that age not responding to your house. So those are my top 2 priorities. Number 3, looking forward, that's why I put here 2025, 2026, replace Forestry 1, through a price out there at $275 at present, given the rise, estimating at $325. And I say that because Forestry 1 is a 2000, so it'll be 25 years old in that time. So we need to start thinking forward. Still a great truck in great shape, and I think we've always, as you can see, the truck's 30 years old, still on the road. We do as best we can maintaining them and keeping them in service. Thankfully, we have some guys in the department that are diesel mechanics, and I gotta give them some credit for what they do, saving us costs and keeping these trucks going. Priority number 4 is a rescue boat, and I know we've gone down that road here before. Maybe it wasn't done as how it should have been, but the boat that I'm proposing is an actual rescue boat. We do not have any boats in our fleet. We have 1 jet ski. That is all that we have, and so that's what we're proposing. It's an inflatable boat. And so while we do have the Harbor Master and they have several boats on the water, and we work well with them, I have no issue there, but we have ponds in town. I'm more focused on the ponds, and the jet ski is a great rapid deployment vessel. We can get to a victim quickly, but we can get to a victim quickly. Multiple people in the water, you've got limited personnel on a jet ski. We're really limited as to what we can do. Can't operate the jet ski at night. It's got no navigational aids. It's got no compass. It's got no GPS finder. It's got nothing. This boat would be deployable in the ponds. It would be deployable in the river. I'm a boater. I've been on the water for 25 years. I live on the river. It would be limited to the ocean. It really, it could access it, but it would depend on the water conditions. That's really where the Coast Guard comes into play, and the Harbor Master. But we've been very lucky. The Harbor Master does a great job patrolling the river on the busy days, but the river is getting busier and busier, and boats go by my house at night all the time without navigation lights on, and I don't know how we haven't had a collision out there, but we haven't. But a town that's waterfront with, I think it's over 30 miles of coastline, that for its fire department to not have a boat is unheard of. Wareham has 8 of them. We don't have 1. So I'm not proposing anything extraordinary. I'm not proposing anything that's ultra expensive. The boat itself actually comes in at $39,900. I asked for $50 because it's going to need to be outfitted with equipment, radios, lighting, etc., trailer. But that is a priority of not only of mine, but of our members. It's a question that comes in all the time. We don't have any capabilities. It's a real concern. We have certified rescue divers, we have rescue swimmers, and we're very limited to what we can do. We had 2 jet skis. 1 was donated to us. It lasted a couple of years. Motor failed. Now we're down to 1. So we have 1 jet ski. The water gets cold. We can't even go out with duck hunters and things like that where issues happen. So we need to look at something that's more applicable to our town and what we do. Unfortunately, that is something I've yet to see that would be covered by a grant. So I'm not going to be an option for grant funding. Replacing the windows and exterior trim at Station 2. So I got a price, which actually I think is a very good price, of $30,000, and that is to replace 10 windows and all of the trim on the building and replace it with PVC. Windows which are wooden now would be replaced with vinyl. So there we would have very long-term, would satisfy needs long-term. Majority of the wood and trim is rotted away. I'm guessing, I'm not sure if you saw the pictures. If you didn't, there were pictures included in the packet. So a lot of the locks, a lot of the sash cords are broken on the windows that we have there. The locks are missing. Security issues. You can get right in the station. We have pieces of wood chopping the windows shut. A lot of the cracks in the windows. The condensate in the winter, which obviously means they're not energy efficient. You see the wood separating and peeling apart here on the front door. We had to cut this actual piece out because it just rotted right off the building. The building was built in the 70s, been minimal upkeep and paint. This is all rot here, this is all rot here. We actually had one resident come in recently looking for a permit and asked if the building was abandoned. I'm sorry. All trimmed, all rot. So in all honesty, to save money, the first thing I looked at was, can we paint this? And the gentleman that came down and talked to me about the job and provided the quote said, you're beyond paint. It's time to replace with vinyl. Vinyl's vinyl. I think we all know the town is probably not gonna have an appetite to replace that building anytime soon. As firefighters working out of there, we're comfortable with the building. The members up there have done an excellent job, interior painting, replacing ceiling tiles, repainting, just keeping it as, in good condition as they can. And I had some members that wanted to tackle this project, and this is beyond what we can do in between calls. You can't, this needs professional help. I had a firefighter recently go on and just recaulk all the windows just to try and keep some of the heat out. So it's a high priority to me. Again, like I said before, you almost need to have two categories because rescue boats and these other items that I'm asking for are high priority and they're life safety issues. But I'd really like to see this funded. Maybe we can work something out with Diamond to get that cost down, and I'm as you guys know, I'm more than willing, even after funding is provided to us, to keep looking to offset that cost and reduce it, to return funds to the town. But I worked at Station 2 when I was on the line. I like that station, but the members need, it needs to be a respectable station. It needs to be something that the public can drive by and be proud of. And right now, it's looking a little ratty, and I think it's beyond what the members can do there. The roof was replaced recently, but as you guys know, that took several years, and it had to actually finally actively leak before it was replaced, kind of an emergency situation. So I don't know how much longer we can put this off. And with the rising costs of labor and everything else, I think the price that I was given, and I did submit the quote to you. If you don't have it, I can forward it along again. But the quote, I won't name the construction company that gave me the quote. I know it might have to go up to bid or things like that, but just the estimation that we got, I shouldn't say quote, the estimate that we got was very detailed, so you'd be able to see it for yourself. And I thought it was fair.
Yeah.
And just again, I know I've talked about it before, but station number 1, if we don't start doing some work on station 1, there's no money in the operating, there's not enough money in the operating budget to deal with that fire station. If we continue to neglect what needs to be done with relation to the shingles, we will be in the same situation we are at Station 2. I'm not saying that the entire building needs to be reshingled. It certainly does not. I'm not even saying one whole side does. The worst side is the south side that gets the wind and the rain and the sun. There's clearly areas where the stain is gone and we're down to the bare wood. Another concern that I'm noticing lately, and I gotta figure it out, when it's raining, the water does not seem to be entering the gutters, it's draining alongside the shingles. So we've either got a flashing issue, I don't know what the issue is. I gotta get somebody that's a contractor that can actually kind of put eyes on it. I don't think it's anything major, but we're seeing water running down the shingles. So obviously it's good and bad. Yeah, I mean, something's happening where it's stained after the rain ends. You still see where the water's running down. But definitely some issues there, and it may be something that we want to tackle. Maybe I get a more concrete price on just one side and see what we can kind of pieced together. That was a price that was given to me by another, again, local contractor that does exterior siding and painting. And that was the most recent price I was given to start that. But the only problem is once you dive into a project like that, you start removing things, what do you find underneath? You know, so that's why I say it may just be something that we take one wall at a time. So I know, then, you know, in the interest of time, I'm not gonna go on and on tonight like I normally do. I think some of the stuff we've all talked about in the past, you're all aware of it. It's very detailed in our report as usual. Again, I'll just really stress the need for the brush truck to put our replacement plan, a potential replacement plan in place. And then we have to start looking at our fire engines and coming up with something that allows us to space out the cost. If you do purchase an engine in cash, usually there's a price reduction. I talked to one chief, they have a replacement plan. The most recent truck they purchased was with cash because they have a revolving account where they put money aside. It took 60 grand off the price. You're not paying interest on a bond or a lease program or anything like that. So there may be something new that the town's tackled. I'm not aware of any kind of account for anything like this.
I'm not either. I'd be interested in knowing what you find from
Okay, yeah, I'd really
the
like to
other
share it.
chiefs, yeah.
Because I think, talking to a lot of them, how do you do it? The prices are going, it's ridiculous, you know?
Yeah, $1 million, that's a
It's
bond.
insane.
Right.
It's insane. Yeah, and we get it, I get it, but we can't just say, well, we're never gonna have another fire engine.
Yeah,
It's not an option, you know? I wanna just come up with a plan that benefits everyone. So, and obviously just kinda moving up here, a lot of this has come on me now, and, you know, I'm in a different position where I can start to discuss these things, you know, with you folks. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any, and then outside of this meeting, if, you know, whoever we would, to get that ball rolling, or at least explore the opportunity for some sort of revolving account or something that allows us to soften the blow for the, you know, the cost of some of these pieces of apparatus.
Dan, I have a question that's not related to each item, but there were two documents given to us. One was 47 pages, the other one was 19. Is the 19 for this fiscal year and the 47 is the longer plan, or is it?
The 47 is the complete plan. I'm wondering if is the 19 the estimate from the building? Which I could grab my iPad and pull that up. I would know.
You mean from Kudo?
Yeah,
I'd have to go look. When I do this, I have to go
I
through.
definitely know the capital plan that I submitted was 47 pages long.
Not at all
Just
the estimates,
Pretty
right?
positive of that. And then I separated separately, I sent separately the window and trim installation estimate for Station 2.
yeah, that would be like 17 pages. 'cause I
Yeah, that'd
printed
probably
it.
be the one, correct.
Yeah,
But the 47-page document, that if you have it on a PDF in your
Yeah.
iPad there, that would be the complete capital improvement
Like a multi-year plan?
plan for this
if I
year,
recall?
correct. I do, so after I submitted this, I kind of got the impression that we're really looking for a more complex 5-year plan, which I think we have here. There are other items on here that aren't included because I'm already 6 deep and I don't want to overdo it, but our cascade system, for example, I think is 17 years long. The cascade system fills the air tanks for the Scott bottles. The motherboard, the module that runs the units you can't get it anymore. So when it breaks, we can't fill our tanks. The good news about that is that we're in a really good position to get a grant for that. I think if I don't know how many grants I'm going to be able to write in the short amount of time they give you to do it, but we might be in a good position to replace that. It's $75,000 a system. We have one in each station. There's 150 grand.
right.
So the rep was down the other day going over the new rescue tools we got, and I told him, I said, I'm having a calibration issue with one of the Cascade systems. He went over. Wasn't a major issue. He was able to make some adjustments, but he said, I got to tell you that your system is out of date. He goes, we cannot get those pots. I said, okay. So this was just last week after this was also, it's not on here. But I knew it was coming up. I knew it was something we were going to have to look at. But that's when actually the grant writer came up. This gentleman out of New Hampshire has a 95% success rate writing grants. It's $1,500 a grant. Like I said, it might be worth it to offset the cost. I mean, I've had some success in some of them. We didn't get safer this year, so I didn't have success there. I haven't got the turn down letter as to explain why, but, which just goes to the proof to the point that you can't always rely on grants.
Yes.
You know,
no,
I mean, they're great, you're great, and I don't mind writing them, I'll write them all day. But they're very specific too, you can't just write for anything, you have to go by the notice of funding and what it says. And they put things on there that are medium priority low, and they say, don't even apply for those because you'll never get them. Well, then why are you putting them on the list? It doesn't make any sense. So, the good thing is that a majority of the AFG grant, which is extensive, a lot of it is the same narrative over and over. So then I just, I put the financial need, it pretty much stays the same for whatever I'm applying for, and it just gets more detailed down if I'm doing one for a truck, if I'm doing one for a cascade system, if I'm doing one for. So, some of it's already done for me is what I'm getting at, but it takes some time. And with the vehicle ones I've never done, sometimes when, it's algorithm, so every action that you put into the grant opens up another box. So I don't know what to expect with the vehicle and how in-depth that'll be. I don't know if the fact that we have 2 trucks that are 11 and 7 years old will hurt us. They might say, oh, you're not in that bad a shape. I don't know.
Okay, well, I think your presentation is excellent, and there's plenty of material here, and it explains, either one, it explains what are the needs and why you need this one, why you need that one, and what the priorities are. Questions, comments from others?
No, just that I'm really curious on what some of these other departments do for revolving funds, or how they do it, whether it's dedicated funds to stabilization or how they go about it. I'm real curious.
One of the departments is District 3, Dartmouth, and because they're a district, it's a little different.
Yep,
His budget alone is about $4 million, but his capital expenditures are everything in his budget.
But it's
Right.
a district.
It's a district.
They're
It's
different, yeah.
Much different, right?
yeah.
Right.
It's different.
But, I'm sure there's a way, I'm sure I'll do whatever I have to do on my end to research the subject, but I'm sure there's a way, honestly, in my mind, money you have left over, I know that everybody needs it in town and you want that money to go back into the pool for the next year, but, if the department's allowed to keep X amount of dollars, maybe if there is money left over, it also encourages the department head to be conservative as possible, and not to say that we're not fiscally responsible, I don't like to spend a lot of money. I try and, we try and cut wherever we can and make sure, I'm always worried about something breaking or something, what if we run out, this winter, what are we gonna do if there's a lot of storms? Last year wasn't so bad, but winter storms requires overtime, things like that. So, I'm sure we can look at it and find a way if we put some effort into it. Maybe we can come up with a plan, involving account of some sort where, X amount of dollars can be put aside. Just got to figure out what that dollar amount can be. Maybe it's only what you can afford in that year. Maybe, there's some free cash left over, and you say we're going to put 10 grand in here. Maybe we're going to put 100 one year, or whatever the town can handle. I don't think they can handle a $950,000 request.
No.
Well, you brought this up before, the need for capital
Should-
planning.
They need
How
for-
should do it?
It should be, we should be setting money aside every year into stabilization fund for capital, so that these type of expenses come up, we have the funding. We need to.
Yep.
We did that last year.
We
Right.
put
Put
some
that
in there, yes.
250.
Chief Legenda mentioned that he said he thinks the ball was starting to roll on
Yeah.
that.
So
Right.
that was mainly from the grant,
The money that we had
you had
turned.
gotten grant money for the
Scott Pax.
Scott Packs.
Right.
And we repurposed that money, put it into the capital stabilization fund.
Right,
Um,
and I think there was some money from some articles or something that got put in there
Yeah.
also. But we need to do it every year, find some money, and sizable money, not just 50,000 or something like that, because our expenses are going to be $1 million expenses, a roof.
The cost of everything has gone up so much that you can't absorb them in just 1 year.
Right,
You need to start saving for them.
Right.
So when things like this come up, you can afford them.
we have to treat it like we're making the bond payment on that,
Right.
so that we're making the bond payments now and saving on all the interest, because
Mhm.
with 7% interest, that adds up too.
Right.
It sure does.
Then there's some communities that do the override for it, right?
Right, I'm aware of
For
that.
the
Yep,
exclusion.
Yep, I'm aware of that, using
If you're
the,
looking at $1 million, you put 50,000 a year into,
yeah, it's still,
capital,
you still,
it's gonna take a
It'll
long
take a long
time to
time.
get there, and you're gonna
Understood.
need another piece of equipment by the time we get there.
And the
I
thing
mean-
is, with the capital stabilization account, you need $1 million for a fire engine, somebody else needs $1 million for a roof, and somebody else needs $1 million for something else. So it's really difficult.
there's nothing enjoyable for us about coming in here and having to
No.
ask for that. We know that, you know,
No, I know.
here's the fire department asking for it, but what can I do? My job is to present what our needs are, and the cost is
Yes.
the cost, and I can't control it. We'll try and work with our vendors as best we can. The only other thing worth noting is that $950,000 investment, and hopefully we can come in under that. It's 25, 30 if you really stretch it, investment. It's not an annual,
Right,
it's, you bite the bullet once, but you're good for a while. You
right.
still have to have a plan going 30 years from now,
Yeah.
And we're a little bit behind the 8 ball because we don't have anything in place. The ladder truck was a grant, engine 3 and 4 might have been bonds, I think. I have to research that, but I'm pretty
We
sure.
did a capital grant,
At the town meeting, I
a
think.
capital bond a few years back.
And I think that engine 4 was
That
on
might be, I think there was an engine on that.
So, that's where we are.
Well, thank you. Questions, any further comments, questions? Probably not a lot of questions because it's well presented and all the information is here, Dan, we applaud you. So we'll do, as I said earlier with George, that we're not making decisions today, we're just lining it all up as we do, and this is a process, and we'll be going from here, and we'll be in touch, and
Okay.
we'll get to the point later in our process here when we start to look at the priorities. Fire department, of course, always gets high priorities in my opinion, and justifiably so. So anything else on this? If not, we know you have other work to do, so thank you for being here today. We'll see you again soon.
There was an AED grant that came across today, I think it's for one AED for emergency vehicles.
Okay. I'll look into that. I want to say in the past the police usually put in,
I
but
think they do.
they do, but I'll mention it to Glenn Nunes, and we'll take that from there.
Okay, good to see you again.
Thank you very much, you as well.
Be well.
Have a good night. And if you have any questions, just email on whatever I sent.
Okay,
We will.
thank you. We will.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, let me get my, so, the information technology, we won't be discussing that today?
No,
Okay. And perhaps they could appear at the next meeting. Do you have any idea as to what other units might be appearing next time? It's too early to tell.
yeah, so we could do IT. I think the Board of Health just has animal control van, but I don't even think that's this year, that might be next year, so he may not have to come before the group. Town Hall,
Mhm.
we can certainly present a number of things,
Yeah.
this building, the annex, or the old school, whatever way we want to do it.
And one thing I
The
wanted
school
to,
department has a list as well, so the school
Yeah.
department might be good to come
About
in next week.
police
Police, I didn't get much, just the cruisers.
and the COA is all set. They said you need.
They did, yeah, there was a
They're
couple of
all
small
set
ones.
with,
it's great,
because she used funds from other places and
yeah.
got all kinds of grants and.
So there's been a push for a
Good.
5-year plan.
Yeah,
So we're trying to assemble some additional
okay.
projects that should be looked at.
Yeah, this group should look at the 5-year plan, and that's one of the charges. We should do it anyway. We have done it in the past, but maybe not with great specificity. But,
And the highway department's the other one. I just looked at.
yeah. But we do want to look at that. What would be the timeline on that, to look
We
at
could
it
have
first?
highway and, for the
I mean,
5-year plan.
5-year plan,
We could have a draft at the next meeting,
yeah. Okay,
rough draft.
if you could. I mean, it could go to the next meeting after that, but,
Well, I guess we could list some of the projects at the next meeting, what year they fall in. We have-
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, that's for that other group, that larger group, but led by the Finance Committee. That was one of their charges, and we agreed readily that we could do that. So we should make that
Do
information
we have
available.
contacts at Diamond that, when we get a list, we can kind of review with them? like he said, the heating system, they ended up getting Diamond to work on it. I wouldn't think, I think of construction for Diamond, not something like a heating system and so forth.
But there's all kinds of trades there, right? So
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. And if we can, the more we can get done through them would be great. I mean,
Oh,
it's a
absolutely.
huge savings for us, and these projects need doing.
Right. Didn't they do the work on the bathroom facilities for the cemetery department?
Yeah, they're
They
still
did.
working on this.
Right.
So they've done the bathrooms, they did the break room, they reshingled the whole exterior. They upgraded the electrical service, they put
Wow,
new electric
great.
within the building. They updated all the gates in the cemetery, they refabricated the hardware, painted them, and they've done quite a
That's
bit of
good.
work over
I was
there.
gonna say,
That's
I
good.
know they've been doing a lot of work down there. I know, and I don't know if the highway department's done anything, but they mentioned that building, it's a shed type of building that they have to store a lot of equipment. I guess it's open front or whatever, that's falling down. I mean, something like that would be a great project for them, I would think. If we can keep Diamond students busy.
Right.
Yeah.
When will you have some idea on free cash?
I think we have some idea now. Could be anywhere from 1.5 to 2. We had roughly $500-some thousand turn back just from the health insurance because we had
Right.
two,
I was just going through the
2 months of
turnback.
holidays. I think we had, so that overall
The
the turnback's
turnbacks were
about
about
1.3.
1.6 million in total.
We had 1.6, but I think we dropped at 300.
Oh, because of the debt service.
Because of
then
the
it
Yeah, that
wasn't
wasn't-
really a turnback.
No.
Right. So 1.3 just in the
1.3, and then
turnbacks.
our local receipts, we're estimating at a more reasonable number now.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we should be.
Okay. Well, we've got a lot of things in motion here on the CIPC committee. The only other thing we need to do today, according to the posting, is to approve the minutes of February 15th. That was our last meeting, and Jim put that together for us. We should approve that, or should we discuss the approving of it? You don't have to approve it, but
I
would,
have a question. On here, you got approved January 18 minutes. Minutes were not reviewed. None of us got a copy of those minutes.
Minutes, January 18th.
We didn't approve it because we didn't get a copy.
Oh, so we still need to approve the January 18th minutes?
Yeah,
Okay. So we should put that on the next agenda.
next agenda, yeah.
well,
But we can still approve
yeah,
these minutes.
we could amend this to, since we didn't do item number 4, is to correct that. And then approve the other actions that were taken on February the 15th.
Yeah, we didn't get
Is that
15.
clear? Okay, so could I, any discussion would be welcome, but if not, a motion to do that would be an amended,
I don't know if we have to amend the minutes, right? Because so these minutes are correct from the 15th. We just, Mary Lou, I think was just noting we never approved the January 16th, 18th minutes, so we'll have to do that at our next meeting.
yeah, but these minutes are saying we did that
Did approve it.
and we didn't.
I think
So
it's
so the
saying that
agenda
it was
item
on.
was approved minutes, and then after we said minutes were not reviewed. So, yeah, I guess it's confusing.
But you're saying we did not approve the January 18th?
Right.
Yes,
He's
that's the
saying,
note.
and what Jim's saying is, it's saying
Just a header.
it was to approve, that was our agenda, yeah.
Right, just a header, I think, right?
Oh.
It's just,
Yeah, that was what was on the agenda,
Description.
but then the answer was we didn't review them.
So I will I'll amend the minutes to say minutes were not reviewed or approved,
Yeah,
Yep, that works.
just to
there'll be
clarify.
the amendment to the February 15th minutes, and that's correct then, right? You got that, Miguel? All right, so then,
I'll
what
make that motion with the amendment to approve the minutes of
I'll
February
second.
15th.
Second?
motion made and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I don't see any.
I'll abstain, I was not.
Interesting. So that would be approved by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That works.
Yay, no, nay, and 1 abstention. Good. And next time we'll make that approval to the January 18th minutes. Okay, well, you can see we didn't take 2 hours, you know?
Nice.
So next meeting, as discussed earlier, November the 16th. 3 PM, right?
That sounds great.
That works for me.
And that meets the approval of all, I hope?
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait. I can't wait. Seriously, I enjoy this stuff. It's not easy though when you have so much in the way of needs, legitimate needs for capital expenses, and
Oh,
the
boy.
funds are limited. It's a tough situation. That's why we gotta set money aside, right, Sue?
Jim?
Yes.
We do, we really
We
do.
do. We need to come up with a plan in which we're dedicate a certain amount or source each year to
Right.
capital needs.
Yep.
We can't keep living so frugally that things deteriorate to the point where you're spending far more money than you needed to do if only we could have maintained things.
Yep.
So budgets are getting stripped to the bone, and there's a price to pay for that
Sure.
down the road. And we've got to do something about it, because everything is just gonna fall apart.
Mm.
Yeah, that catches up with you.
But even the capital, if we put money in capital, we're just taking it out of projects that we would have done this year. So
Right.
it doesn't necessarily
It does.
solve the problem, but it
But at least,
helps
Right.
in another
It
way.
even-
Free cash
it
isn't
evens it out.
necessarily the answer, because right now we're using our free cash for capital.
right.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily the
Right, it
answer.
would take it out of the current need to spread it out to
Yeah.
a more long-term.
Has to be part of the
Fashion.
budget.
Mm.
It has to be part of the budget.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Unless we go for a capital override.
right. I'll let you head up
Is that your
committee.
recommendations?
Yeah,
Yes,
I'll let you head that one up.
Recommendation.
Okay.
To a capital, you can do a separate capital override, that will put so much excluded into capital stabilization each year.
Sure.
I mean, realistically, I think that
It
may
would-
be the only way you're gonna get $1 million piece of
Fire
equipment.
truck, right.
It would create a separate excluded debt, dedicated to capital
Yeah.
stabilization.
Well, that item is a worthy item in and of itself, and perhaps we should put it on the agenda one day and
Mhm.
have at it, and develop the topic more fully, but we like the idea. I think we've
The
shown.
one thing with that might make people happy is after listening to the last override that we went through, so there was this group of people on this side saying, I don't want anything to go to the schools. This group of people were saying, I only want it to go to the schools. I don't want the town to get it. I don't want to see anybody in the town. If it's going to capital stabilization,
You might do it.
it's the only thing. It's
Yeah.
to help avoid debt.
Well, and people are far more amenable to things they can touch and feel.
Yep. Yep.
You know, to a
Yeah.
hard asset acquisition that you can justify.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I think we've had a full plate today, a good one, so I'd be excited about a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. So moved.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously, and the chair declares the meeting to be over.